you see Five Nights at Freddy's and you're a fan of the video game franchise and now you're upset the movie's so terrible, all I have to say is, welcome to the party, pal. Five Nights at Freddy's has Blumhouse's name on it. It's got a lot of folks excited. I think during a certain age group of folks that grew up with the video games and are really familiar with this, which I am not. So please give me a little bit of leeway in that regard. And I will definitely give you a bit of a spoiler-free thoughts on the beginning. And then we will go into spoilers and we'll walk through the trailer a little bit here and I'll have some commentary for you. So Five Nights at Freddy, again, like I said, it is based on a video game. It centers around basically a security guard. He starts off as a mall cop. He's constantly flipping jobs. His name is Mike. He has a young sister named Abby, and he's struggling from sort of a traumatic moment from his childhood when his brother Garrett was abducted in front of him. He saw who abducted him. And then we have he loses his job. He ends up getting hired and will work as a night guard at a Fazbear's pizza place, which is kind of an amalgam, if you imagine, or a fantasy made-up version of Showbiz Pizza and Chuck E. Cheese with the animatronic animals and robots, which, by the way, are brought to life by the Henson Group. Truly magnificent. They're very believable. They're fantastic in every way. With that said, two other films, Willy's Wonderland, which I have not seen, and the Banana Splits horror movie, which I have seen, are basically two precursors to this movie. It's a little hard not to at least shine this up next to those. I don't know what this means, like angry child show or child era, nostalgic era robots come to life to attack people genre, if that is a thing. So there you go. So that's basically it. He's stuck in the situation there as the security guard. And this movie moves through very systematic ways of this is what's going to happen for 30 minutes. And then we're going to have them come to life, show the audience what that's going to be like. There'll be an attack frenzy to horror movie. Almost all of the crazy blood and guts and whatever are off camera. So if you're squeamish with the blood, then it would be fine. I think it's actually in some ways worse because in your head then, and therefore you kind of are contriving some of the contraptions and some of the deaths of how bad it might be. So you make the call. It's PG-13. This is going to be one of those films that I can see a kid going, yeah, I watched that movie. It totally freaked me out. They watched it like at 8 or 9. They didn't watch it when they were old. So like, I can see this movie being one of those, even though this is not a very good movie. Vanessa is sort of she's not even a love interest. She's a female police officer who looks more like she's cosplaying as a police officer than really being a police officer. She by no means polices. She just shows up, talks to Mike later when things are going on. There is literally a complete avoidance of any investigation. Again, I have this big pet peeve with stories where certain plot elements or things only work if the character lies or does not say something. And this completely falls into character here, comes into play here because Mike avoids telling Vanessa about seeing or being aware that the babysitter's missing, looking for these deaths. Just all of that is just conversation that we never have. It comes up later, of course, but that's what happens. So this is a extremely slow moving process. I found it extremely underwhelming. Nothing scary at all. This is more like slasher horror rather than like actually like typical Blumhouse, supernatural or scary or whatever. I mean, they have silly jump scares, like this little creature, which is like a little robot looking thing called Balloon Boy. And it's just like in a locker. So when he opens it, it spooks him, things like that. I'm like, okay. I mean, that's fine. I don't know if that gets you or not, but maybe it does. I think Josh Hutcherson is horrible. He looks like he's phoning it in and just walking around like a freaking cardboard box, regurgitating some lines. I think he is terrible. Elizabeth Lyle is Vanessa. I don't know. I'm not familiar with her. She is okay. Matthew Lillard is by far just awful. Like it's just his character. He is terrible. So I'll give you more on that after the spoilers because I don't know how to navigate through. But he kind of looks like a really badly aged version of someone who'd be related to Ray Liotta, who's trying to basically play. He comes across more like his Stu Macher character from Scream. It's so weird and distracting. He almost like he's miscast in this film, whatever, right? Then you have Mary Stuart Masterson as like the crazed Aunt June who's trying to get her hands on Abby through like this custody battle because Mike and Abby's parents are not around or gone. We sort of have some context to that, and we sort of don't have any context to that. It's sort of like talked about, then it's sort of not really, you know. So that's kind of the gist of it. If I have to score the movie again, I use a 5-star system. It's going to get 1 star just based on the freaking animatronics because the Henson Group did an amazing job with all of that. I would go 2. I think it's a 2-star movie. I really wouldn't go out of my way to sit through it again. It's not so god awful that there aren't worse things, but it's not something that I would remotely recommend. And if you are a fan of this franchise, I'm very curious on what the reaction is going to be because to me this feels like a complete dog crap script and execution of a script relative to what should have been something pretty decent in the grand scheme of the franchise. Like to me, the hardest thing would have been trying to make you feel like you're in this world where these robots and stuff are real. And that actually is pulled off. It's the story. It's Josh Hutcherson. And that's the worst part. So if you're okay with spoilers, we're going to proceed. That's where we're going to go on from there. So stick around for that if that's what you are indeed interested in. And I assume if you're still here, you're okay with some spoilers, because let me tell you what, it takes like your child that you take that's probably too young to sit through this, but you're okay with taking, let's say, an 8 to 10-year-old that wants to see a slasher or horror movie because it's based on Five Nights at Freddy's, which is a video game they played. They will know, or I will not be shocked that they know who the villain is, because there's only like 4 characters that remotely are relevant. Half of the 4 or 5 other characters are all killed off in this massive sequence in the middle of the movie. And I'm just like, well, you knew pretty early on that Vanessa was somehow sketchy. Now, you didn't know exactly what that meant, but you felt like she didn't really befriend Mike, but she also didn't act like a police officer. And she just shows up. There's a quick line that she knows where the first aid kit is. And you're like, okay, why would she know where the first aid kit is? Like, that's weird. And Mike, of course, never comes clean about the missing babysitter and some of that kind of stuff too. So there's a huge, this all runs on convenience. Nothing is done. And you really kind of feel almost disconnected from it all. So, I hated all of that. I really, really hated all that. And the story kind of plods along that basically there are these murdered kids, there are these ghosts, they're in these robots. We find out they're in these robots because that's where the killer stuck their bodies. And by sticking their bodies in there, there's these possessed. So, and then of course, Mike is having these dreams. He's addicted to these flashbacks that he's having. It's reliving the abduction of the brother, and they're kind of evolving over time, right? So when he first has them, this is what probably happened. The second one has the appearance of these 5 children. Then they actually physically harm him, and he wakes up and he actually has like an injury where they hurt him. And that's where that kind of starts to unpack. And the twist, of course, is that the serial killer that killed the 5 kids, the one that got the brother, and he's there among all the chaos. And then twist again, spoilers, right? Twist again, Vanessa is his daughter, and he is the dude that we saw earlier, which was played by Matthew Lillard. It is so, I mean, talk about just telegraphing everything that you're going for. I actually thought to myself that they were not going to do it. Like, I actually thought it's so obvious that it's Stu Macher that it'll just be some rando person in the suit that's her dad, but it'll be like a big name actor. Like, it'll be somebody in the suit, but it'll be someone that we'll recognize, right? It'll be like Henry Winkler being the principal in Scream. It'll be some major star. And then he'll maybe get killed off, but he's not actually dead because he can possess a robot or something. I don't know the game, so bear with my thought process of the spitballing. But no, he just takes it off. It's Matthew Lillard. I'm like, well, he's the only character. Of course, right? It's just, and can I say the second act where you have this big murder sequence where they're all taking. So okay, so the crazy aunt is involved, like, because she's trying to get custody of the kid, the sister. Her name is Abby, and it's like, well, she wants the monthly check. I'm like, well, first off, I'm looking at Aunt Crazy Lady. She appears to be doing okay for us. So she has money to basically pay the babysitter and the babysitter's brother and some friends. So it's all just a big scammeroo. Why does she want Abby? It doesn't add up. So she pays these people to basically try to get information on Mike. They got nothing. So then she pays them, offers them money to break in to Freddy's because they can sabotage the place, can destroy the place, vandalize the place. That will sabotage his job. He'll lose his job. Then she can get Abby. Fair enough. Robots attack, of course, during that process. They all get killed, including the babysitter. And again, great murder sequences from a slasher horror film standpoint. They were all fine. Except for the fact that I was distracted that all of the men, they're killed because they're killed first, scream like small children, like bloody, like, Wah! I mean, it was, gut wrenching, curling screams. It was just so distractingly bad. I assumed that we were going to go for a little bit of levity or comedy in the middle of the murder sequences and stuff. But it almost was just too much. And the fact that they all did it, it wasn't just, I think, one of them. I think they all do it. Enjoyed the babysitter death scene. That was probably my favorite. So let's see. So that kind of plays out. Abby, of course, she befriends these robots. She starts to understand. She's like, again, this typical gateway horror trope, right? The child is the gateway to the supernatural. It knows how to communicate with the ghosts. It knows what they want, what they don't want, things like that. And they basically end up wanting to stick Abby into a machine because they want to just kill her, put her in a machine. And that's where, allegedly, like, the mastermind human's the one pulling the strings. So the big twist and the solution to save the day was to have Abby, the little girl, draw a picture that they like, because they like pictures. That's something that's set up. And that will be what triggers them to turn on their map. It was just so, again, maybe this is right out of the game. I got no frame of reference. I thought it was absolutely terrible at every turn. Yeah. Let's just take a quick stroll through some of the trailer. This just sets up this world where Mike and there's Abby, and everything in their world is, there's the Matthew Lillard character, Steve Raglan, who's really not Steve Raglan. This is about the job. Everything is everything is very gray and generic. And of course, he's going to get this job. And so the exposition here, I normally would have not liked, but it wasn't awful. So, but my problem is I felt like they're giving us the same story multiple times of this is what actually happened to Freddy's and they went out of business and kids were missing and that kind of thing. But we do like recap this like 2 or 3 times in different ways and things like that without really giving me a whole lot more information. So, there's all sorts of little nitpicks that you'll notice. Like he can turn the power on and there's all this power and there's movement. And then the next scene, there's no power and he's going around with a flashlight. Makes little to no sense. And then later he's doing all this cleanup. I'm like, I don't understand why you didn't do that in the first place. It would have just been easier to manage the place. So it's all built on just its general aura of creepiness. Like I said, there's other movies that have done this. I was really familiar with that crazy Banana Splits version. So anyway, here's Freddy Fazbear's commercial. This is this like retro training ad for getting hired somewhere. This was actually very clever, and I like this a lot. That part was pretty good, and him in this role was fine. It's just that's the only role he has. He's just this very glum, ho hum person walking through, and I just didn't think he really brought anything. And this concept that it's okay to like take a bunch of sleeping pills and sleep on the job, I totally hated all of that. I don't know why that would remotely be an option. I was thinking that he was going to struggle to get home in time to take her to school so he can sleep during the day or something. I thought there were going to be some more explanations to make all of this new life manageable. And all I did was just set up not only the 5 nights at Freddy's, but also the 5 dream sequences and how they were going to progress through the story was all that actually happened. It was not believable, like at all. Let's see. Set design was great. I'm assuming all of this stuff. Oh, there's like about a million Easter eggs for all of you that are into the video games because there's just massive set design in some of these different sequences, and actually that was all done pretty well. Definitely felt like a Showbiz Pizza for sure. There's Vanessa, and here's Abby, and Abby coming in contact with them. It is kind of creepy. It's done on purpose. And this is the Vandals coming in to destroy the place. Okay, so this is the weird telegraphing of the killer because the ghost children only quote talk about and draw this image of these quote the yellow rabbit. Well, the yellow rabbit is like the mascot or something, and that's technically the mastermind villain played by Matthew Lillard. There's the 5 kids. That's them standing around, which of course we have to do in modern cinema. The wall of pictures because they love pictures, right? So, but you can see look at the detail in the robots. I mean, some of these robots are really, really cool. They did a really spectacular job with some of that. Yeah, this was like this weird cupcake. Again, part of the game, I'm sure. Some all that, yeah. Yeah, trailer's fine. It's all cut out of order. Nothing out of the norm to kind of make you believe certain things. These moments where you have these robots and they do strange and weird things during that second act murder sequence were fantastic. Like they do something and then they sort of like very slowly and methodically go and look up at the camera. It was good. So all of that I thought was, again, how can you make a movie when you pull off like the technical robot stuff and the practical effects in this location you film in and everything else is crap. So yeah, this is that. Okay, so this is the main torture device. We get a little tease in the opening sequence with a previous security guard, and then there's a point where that's when Mike gets caught and he's put into this machine, and whether or not he can get out in time or not. So that's the general gist of the show. And then there's the taxi cab. Okay, I really thought this was probably like the best moment. Abby's going to take a ride back, and the robot, because the taxi driver just thinks there's somebody in it. So it's played for a good gag. That's possibly some of the best moment in the movie. And there's like a little teaser, like a little clip after the movie ends, and there's like a little stinger clip. Again, played for a laugh, basically. So yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's. Wish I could say I recommend it. I don't. Love to hear from you guys. Tell you guys what you think. I appreciate you guys watching. I am Pops. Take care.
Right? And I'm not playing no